What defines humans is that we are mortal. We walk through the world knowing that one day life will end for us, just like it has for so many others. Humanity is consumed with the very idea of death. Yet it goes further, as the entire world is obsessed with immortality. Every society has its own belief. In the medical community, they claim to prolong life with science and technology. Christians believe in heaven and hell. Buddhists claim reincarnation and rebirth. The ancient Greeks trust life in the underworld. As for the ancient Egyptians, well, they were no different. My name is Evan Brorby, and we're about to unlock the secrets of the Egyptian afterlife. What we know from the architectural remains tells us that the pyramids were the burial place of the pharaohs and kings of Egypt. See, Egyptian life revolved around death, and often a great deal of a pharaoh's life was spent preparing for it. See, if we look at the pharaoh Sneferu of the 4th dynasty, we know that he built not one, but 3 full pyramids. While it is true that his first few pyramids had some problems, to say the very least, the fact remains that the pharaoh was so insistent on building a magnificent place to be buried that he wouldn't stop until he had achieved his goal. But while the sheer size and grandeur of the pyramids may be impressive, what lies inside possibly tells of something even more spectacular and mysterious: the story of the Egyptian afterlife. Inside the pyramids are these incredible burial chambers. In fact, the step pyramid, which was designed by Djoser, is imagined to have a burial chamber that was lined with alabaster and inlaid with stars. Yet placed in the burial chamber is a coffin, and in that coffin lies no other than the mummy of the pharaoh himself. Now, many of these mummies were in fact looted by grave robbers, but the ones we have left tell us something of mummification. The mummification process started with all the organs, except for the heart, being removed. Even the brain was removed from the nose of the body. After the body was dried in salt to remove all the excess moisture, it would be dressed in perfume oils to restore the skin to its original look. A heart scarab would then be placed over the heart. Lastly, the mummy would be wrapped in layers of resin and linen. As for why the dead were mummified comes down to several reasons, but the most important stems from the fact that Egyptians believed that the soul, also known as the Ba, needed a grounding point or home base in order to move on into the afterlife. However, we have a big problem. Mummies can only tell so much about the Egyptian afterlife. There is an essential piece of the puzzle that is missing, and I'll be fundamentally unable to answer what happens in the Egyptian afterlife without it. Wait, this is it. This is it. The answer to our question lies in the Book of the Dead. While the so-called book has evolved from being written on the inside of pyramids to being standardized and divided into chapters, the fundamental principle has remained the same: to guide the deceased into the afterlife. And it does so with a variety of spells and incantations. While there are many versions of the Book of the Dead, there's one in particular I want to look at: the Book of the Dead of the Gold Worker of Amun. And it's right here at the Brooklyn Museum in no other than New York City. While the Book of the Dead was originally reserved for pharaohs, they were soon popularized among the townspeople of Egypt. This is the Book of the Dead of the gold worker Sobekmos, and it is dated back to the 18th dynasty. The delicate papyrus spans 24 feet across the room. The deep black ink is a mixture of carbon and water. The red ink was made from ochre. It is written vertically, and the red text signifies the title of a spell. What lies before me is undoubtedly the key to understanding the afterlife. What we learn from the Book of the Dead is that the afterlife was not guaranteed, as in order to reach it, the deceased needed to pass the most important test of their life. The many spells that protect against the perils of the underworld describe that the deceased needed to pass through monster-infested lakes of fire and mysterious doorways. Out of the almost 200 spells, many of them are designed to protect against snakes and crocodiles and even gatekeepers, who are described as he who lives on snakes or hippopotamus-faced raging of power. Yet the next thing the book describes is crucial, as it links the process of mummification to the Book of the Dead. If the soul survives, the jackal-headed god Anubis will take the soul to 42 judges, where it will tell a negative confession, or a sin that it has not committed. Nevertheless, not all souls are perfect, and it was actually customary to lie on these. And for this reason, if you can remember, the heart scarab that was placed over the heart is meant to stop the emotions from betraying the deceased. Yet the Book of the Dead goes further to justify mummification. Spell 125 describes the weighing of the heart ceremony, where the heart would be weighed on a set of scales against a feather. If the heart was lighter, the soul would go on to the field of reeds for eternity. But if it was heavier, the soul would be eaten by a crocodile monster. The reason this is so vital is because it describes why the heart was kept in the body during the process of mummification, because it would be needed later on in the afterlife. Book of the Dead is truly the missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to determining what happened in the Egyptian afterlife. In combination with the process of mummification, we are able to grasp better than ever before of what happened in life after death. The Book of the Dead sends an important message that death was really just the continuation of life. But possibly more important is that the field of reeds was not easy to get to, which is why the Book of the Dead was created in the first place. Maybe the Book of the Dead exemplifies how Egyptians were so afraid of death that they built a whole social construct around reaching the afterlife. But in a way, the Egyptians did defeat death. When we read stories of Egyptian kings or see artifacts in museums, we remember a civilization that lasted over 3,000 years. While Egyptian pharaohs may no longer rule the world, we will never forget their achievements. So, maybe it wasn't in the way they intended, but in a sense, the Egyptians did achieve immortality after all.